this thing working? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Colloquial Kitchen. Today I am doing a live streaming lasagna. I'm not going to do all of it because the process takes about 5 to 6 hours. But what I'm going to do is get the basics down of how to get it started. After that, it's just a matter of putting it in the tray and layering it up. So here's what we start with, the sauce. So I have a pan over here that's heating up. I'm going to put a healthy dose of olive oil in there. And you start with your sofrito. A sofrito is onion, celery, and carrots. What you do is you chop those up real fine, fry them in the olive oil until they get soft. Jammy is a word. All of these have sugar in them. You never put sugar into your spaghetti sauce. You get the sugar from here. So, leftovers go into the stock bucket. Dicing up using that claw method. You have to excuse me. This table is a really bad height for working on, but if I work over there, you can't see me. Just going to chop those up a little bit more, because these are going to end up dissolving into the sauce. You're not going to have chunks of celery or chunks of carrot. Into the stock bucket. Oops. That little piece doesn't look good. And I'm not going through. Now, one thing you can do with celery, I don't know if you can see this, you put your thumb at the end and your claw at the beginning, and you slowly pull your fingers together for a nice, even cut. I'm going as thin as I can on these. Alright. And then I have carrot matchsticks, julienne carrot. I'm just going to chop this up smaller. If you'd like, you can throw all this into the food processor, give it a couple quick blitzes, but that is more stuff to clean. Okay. Turn up my olive oil. Into the pan. And that's going to cook for about 5 minutes until it is nice and soft. If you want to do it fully traditional, you would start with tomatoes, which you peel. The way you peel a tomato is you get hot water and cold water. You cut an X in the bottom of the tomato, put it in the hot water, let it boil away for about a minute or so, and you'll see the skin start to peel off. Put it in the cold water, take it out with a slotted spoon, put it in cold water, let it cool down enough that you can just take and peel that skin right off. Then you would chop that up, maybe blend it, cook it down for however many hours it takes. I'm cheating today, I'm using canned crushed tomatoes. And one of the nice things about using canned tomatoes, whether you use crushed or diced or whatever, is that they're wet. And you want that water in there so you can cook it down. Because this is going to simmer. Once we've got it going, it's going to simmer for 3 to 5 hours to let that flavor really go through. And we keep just sort of mixing up that sofrito so that all of it gets cooked. I'm making a large batch of sauce today, so I've got enough for the lasagna. And any that's left over, I can can. You can freeze it, put it in the fridge if you think you're going to use it again shortly. Put some of this away. I will say, if you think you're going to do a lot of cooking that you're going to be keeping, learn how to can. Food stays in a pantry, on a shelf, in a basement somewhere, wherever, for a good year or two. And it saves you so much money. All right, while this is going, I'm going to start on the second part, which is a mushroom reduction. I got pre-sliced mushrooms because they are on sale, but they're massive. So I will be cutting them up. Now this looks like a lot of mushroom, but once you cook them, they shrink down. So always use more mushroom than you think you're going to need at first. So, and just into bite-sized pieces. Alright, so our onions are starting to go brown and soft. I don't want them to burn. And I'm going to rinse out that can and put the water in there because, again, I want that wetness. Okay, I got quiet again. I want that wetness so that it can cook longer. wash the can out before you throw it away anyway, so there we go. Tomatoes in. Gonna turn it down, mix it up. And then we go in with our seasonings. So I've got a little bit of garlic powder because I'm out of fresh garlic. I forgot to buy some. So garlic. Oh, that's mustard. I grabbed the wrong one. Where's my garlic? Uh-oh. I don't have any garlic. I don't have any garlic. My bad. I had looked at that jar and thought it was, but it's not. So, oh, here we are. Here we are. Garlic. Oregano. And put a lot of that in. Black pepper. This is, I buy peppercorns and crush them myself in an old coffee grinder. Thyme for a little bit of sweetness. Smoked paprika, just for a little bit of depth. That smokiness gives it some depth. Then, red wine. The wine gives it more depth. Get in there. The acidity complements the acidity of the tomatoes. It's got a sort of richness to it. And we're putting in a healthy dose of wine, and I will be adding more as this cooks down. Not too bad. The alcohol content, because it's cooking for so long, that's going to eventually boil away. It's not like a flambe where you think it all goes away. It doesn't. In this, it's the heat over time that does it. Probably could have gotten away with one package of mushrooms, but they are on sale if you buy two. So I'll use them on something. If not in this, then in something else. Where's I don't know if I've talked about it before, but a bench scraper, I just started using this and I love it. You can do it with your knife, but that's got more surface area and you don't risk dulling your knife. this. I don't measure anything. This is all to taste. When you work from a recipe on something like this, you become, in my opinion, too focused on the measurements and not on the feel of the food. Different onions are going to have a different strength. So maybe you need more or less to get that same flavor. Your mushrooms may be bigger or smaller. The wine has a different flavor. It's just play by feel. Alright, so going to mix that in. I have fresh basil that is on its last leg. This came out of my garden. So this was planted almost a year ago. Basil is an annual, which means that it does not survive to the next year. But I've sort of nursed it along. I can't nurse it along any further. So I need to grab a scissors. I'm going to take those leaves, chop them up. They're going into there because the flavor is still there, even if they don't look great. Okay? Off, and the blossoms are edible. They have great flavor. They go into my stock bucket so that my stock gets a rich basil-y flavor to it. You got an herb stock. Stretch. If you have space either in your kitchen or in a spare room in your house or apartment, I highly recommend growing herbs indoors. Get a good grow light, and here's where I'm going to plug my employer. Rain Growing Systems has some wonderful grow lights at a good price point, and you can grow all of this inside. You should see the pictures of the lettuce that we've got going. And we're going to experiment with herbs and get those growing. I will let you know how they turn out. Lots of basil in there. Get that rocking motion. Chop that up. Mushrooms. Heat up the frying pan. Throw in half stick of butter. I'm probably going to end up adding more in because I got a lot of mushrooms. Let that melt down. Okay, that's starting to bubble again, so turn the heat down. You want your sauce at the lowest heat. Whee! I need my milk. Now, I don't want this butter to brown or burn, so I'm going at a medium heat. And chop that butter up. Keep that butter swirling around so that it doesn't sit in one place too long and burn. In with the mushrooms, and yes, I'm going to need more butter. I'm going to need lots more butter. We're going to need some black pepper. And I'm going to let those cook down a bit before I add the wine and a secret ingredient. This is Chinese chicken granules. It's like concentrated essence of chicken or something. Comes in a yellow can with a plump chicken wearing an apron on it. And this is like umami. That's going to give this a real rich flavor. And you want to make sure that the mushrooms are all coated in butter. See, this is one of the reasons I don't use measurements, because I'm looking at it going, I need more butter. It's purely a feel thing. It's a look thing going, yeah, they're not wet enough yet. Let's add a few pieces around the outside so they melt down into the middle. For a while and see what happens. For the meat, I made my sausage last night. Just ground pork, garlic powder, a little salt, black pepper, oregano, and crushed fennel. Mix a little water in there so it spreads out throughout. Let it sit overnight. The flavor, it permeates and it settles in. You can buy Italian sausage or whatever meat you like. Okay. Now, as the mushrooms start to saute properly, they're releasing water, so you're getting that little bit of moisture that's in there comes out, mixes with the butter, and you get a nice emulsification starting. down a little bit and then turn it to simmer. These are going to simmer for a couple hours, letting, again, that flavor permeate through, reducing down the liquid. Add a little more wine, add a little more wine as need be to raise that fluid level up so that it can reduce down and not burn. I'm going to put just a pinch of salt into there to bring out flavor. You do not need a lot of salt. And then this, I'm going to taste this to get a sense of where I'm starting. Still very acidic, but that will go away. Good on the pepper. I'm probably going to want more oregano, maybe thyme, definitely more basil. Taste as you go. I recommend having a bunch of old spoons so that each one is clean as you taste. If you're cooking for yourself, who cares? If you're cooking for others, don't double dip with spoons. All right, so I want more basil in there. Let's use this all up. If you do grow your own herbs, I recommend getting a claw trimming scissors from a pet supply store. They have, they've got that circular inside, and they're great for cleanly cutting through herbs, where a scissors might try and push them out. Wonderful little tool. And for most herbs, the way to get the leaves off, hold by the top, put your fingers around, and just drag backwards. And they slide right off. Works especially well on things like thyme, oregano, rosemary. This basil's got a lot of extra limbs on it, so it's not doing quite as well. So, mushroom is going, sauce is going. Those are going to cook for, as I said, probably 2 hours for the mushrooms, probably 4 hours on the sauce, checking on it constantly, adjusting flavors as you go. Flavor will change. Certain flavors will drop down. The acidity, for example, will drop down the more you cook it. Other flavors will punch forward. The black pepper will come up. So you want to start lower with that. Things like the basil and the oregano tend to smooth out rather than getting a punch of basil as you get a leaf. The oils and aromatics disperse throughout the sauce, blend with the other flavors, and become more subtle and, say, pervasive, thorough. smell of that is just wonderful. All right. Those are good for a couple hours. I'm going to do a quick clean down here. All right. So I'm moving that to the back. So we've got the sauce, we got the mushroom reduction going. I'm going to need the pasta, which I'm going to make now. That'll need to rest for half an hour or more. And then the bechamel, which I'm going to sort of make a mornay. So we'll do the bechamel, add in the ricotta, because they only had a small container of ricotta at the store. And that will be a sauce that'll go between layers with the meat. So you get a creaminess to it and a smoothness to your lasagna. And then the top is going to be covered with mozzarella. Lots and lots of mozzarella. Okay, so move you out of the way. Bring my bowl over. Now, a lot of people you'll see make pasta right on the tabletop. That's fine. I like to do it in a bowl just because it's easier. Easier to start. So, two cups of flour, 3 eggs. And this is just standard baking flour. Want that. Let's get these out of the way. All right. Ooh. And put a dash of olive oil in there. And I'm going to turn my sauce all the way down and my mushrooms all the way down. So you don't want to burn them. All right. Just mix your flour and egg together. This is why I like the bowl, because it stays together better. And I should have taken my rings off. These eggs are a little bigger, so this is ending up a little wetter than normal. Let's see what we got. set those over there. They are expensive. Okay, and you're looking for a dry Play-Doh texture. All right, now we'll take it out onto, once it's sort of set together, and just knead it. Put your body into it. You want to get that mixed up as well as you can. And fold those little bits back in. See how that's coming together, and it's not shedding those little pieces anymore, except for what's all over my fingers. What you're doing here is working the gluten. That's going to give you stretchiness. And that's going to need to rest for about half an hour. So that's a good consistency. Like I said, like dry Play-Doh. You can't see it very well. My grow lights are blowing the light through here. So I will take this and put it into saran wrap. Wrap that up so it doesn't dry out. Throw it into the fridge for half an hour. All right, then quick cleanup, and the last dish I'm going to make most of. Bring back the cutting board and get another bowl. Oops, all the floor, throw it in the laundry. All right. One thing out of this room. Homemade red wine vinegar. That red wine, if it doesn't all get used, I will put it into a mason jar with some cheesecloth over the top so bugs can't get in. Let it sit for a couple of weeks. Red wine vinegar. All right. I'm going to bring back some celery, some carrot, some olives, tomatoes. You could take the stem, put it into your spaghetti sauce and get some of that you know what the tomato stem smells like. You can get some of that flavor in there. I'll throw it in with my stock. Okay. Make sure the little labels are taken off. I forget to do that all the time. End up with labels in my food. All right, I'm gonna make a panzanella. The one thing I'm not gonna do right now is put in the bread. I'm gonna put that in later so it doesn't get too soggy. But, dice up some tomatoes. There are a bunch of different ways to make panzanella. The core of it is the tomatoes, red wine vinegar, and bread. So you get that soggy bread. I put in a little bit of celery and carrot for crunch. So you get different textures. So you got the soggy bread, the crunchy celery. Put in olives for a saltiness to go with the acidity. You can see some of those knife techniques I was talking about. So we did the rocking chop on the celery. This is that draw through. Works good on tomatoes and peppers. And then just a pushing slice. Should be enough. Now something like the panzanella here, one of the nice things is you can make a really small portion just for yourself, or a lot if you've got company coming. All right. Because I'm leaning over so far, my knife is coming down this way instead of this way, and I'm getting bad cuts. Work surface is important. touch of carrot. I'm gonna need another stock bucket. Okay, mushrooms are starting to go deep brown, and it needs more wine to keep that liquid in there. And right now it's all wine. But definitely want more chicken in there. And black pepper. And we'll let that cook more. I will continue coming back to this over the next couple hours, adding wine, tasting it, checking it. By the end, it should be like a gravy around those mushrooms. Savory, delicious. So you've got the creaminess of the cheese, the light acidity of the tomato sauce, the aromatic meatiness of the sausage, which there's not a whole lot in there. The deep umami of the mushroom. And you get a really layered, no pun intended, flavor and complexity to your lasagna. And you only need a small piece. It is really rich. Olives. A little bit of that brine. Oh yeah, red wine vinegar. And just throw a little more pepper in there. We'll go for yellow, give it some flavor or some color. So I've got some everything bagels sitting on the shelf that are now at the point of being stale, which is good. This is how you use up your stale bread. Throw it in here. There'll be more olive oil going in, which I can put in yet. More vinegar going in to, that bread will soak that up, get soft and chewy. But I don't want it to be too soggy, so I'm waiting until just before it's served. About 15-20 minutes. I'm going to throw away my food. into a container, go in the fridge. And this is where I'm going to end, do some cleanup. So, you've got your sauce cooking. Keep tasting it, keep adjusting what you put in there. You've got your mushrooms simmering. Keep them wet, let them cook for a good hour minimum. 2 is good. We've got our sausage in the fridge. That will get fried up just before I do the layering. Got the pasta resting. That can sit there and rest until I'm ready to cut it up into sections and run it through the pasta machine. I will make the bechamel just before I get ready to build stuff. I'll cut up the bread into here. There's your lasagna. Start with a layer of noodle, then sauce, then bechamel, then noodle, then sauce, then mushroom and meat. However you want to layer it up, but always make sure there's noodle on the bottom and then sauce on top of the noodle. That sauce is going to soak into the noodle a little bit, keep it from going too dry. When you get to the top, layer of noodle, and then a layer of cheese, mozzarella on top of that. Pop it in the oven for 35-40 minutes at about 350. All you're doing is warming everything through, because everything's cooked already, and getting that cheese to bubble and gratinate to get that slightly burnt cooked stuff and get those nice crunchy edges. That's lasagna. So thanks for watching, and I will try to maybe record the building and put it down here somewhere once this goes, once this gets saved. So that's it. Thanks for watching Livestream Lasagna.